Weekly, episode 45. I am one of your hosts, Jonathan Ullman, alongside jolly old St. Tom Cab.
What's up?
Coming on down. Ho, ho, ho. What's going on, man? How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
Excited for another awesome episode of trèSci Weekly.
Indeed, me as well. Take a look around. We've got a nice little winter wonderland set going here, courtesy of Kyle and Kate for putting that together.
We are, Christmas themed.
Yes, we are.
Ready to go.
We'll have a couple holiday themed stories today to talk a little bit about. So that's kind of nice. Keeping it up with the spirit, as they say. Tom, how was your week?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy happened.
No.
You know. Yeah. Just reading my science articles. Doing my thing.
Nice, man. Very nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Likewise here. Pretty quiet as far as things happening. It's that time of the year where everything sort of quiets down for a little bit.
Still need to do a little bit of Christmas shopping, a little bit.
Yeah, I looked at Amazon for like a few hours.
Got overwhelmed.
And then I haven't been back yet.
They sell everything.
Yeah.
By the way,
I just can't decide on what to buy anybody. So I probably just won't buy anybody anything.
Solid move there.
Mm-hmm. Except Mush, of course. Mush will get some cat treats maybe.
Sweet.
So thank you guys for joining us. This is, of course, the last episode of the year for us over at trèSci Weekly. Next week is...
we got the holidays coming up.
Correct. Christmas Day. So probably everybody will be somewhat busy on that evening. So no show next week. And then the following week would be New Year's Day. So again, you guys will be recovering from a nice holiday the night before. And no show on the 1st then either. So we'll be back a little bit into January next year.
Coming in hot with new ideas. Fresh science.
Oh, yeah. We're going to come out the gate swinging. Thank you guys again for joining us this week. Of course, if you didn't already know, this is our weekly show where Tom and I discuss trending science news topics, try to break it down for you, what's going on out there in the world of research, and then give you our honest takes and opinions on those different topics.
Yeah, anything from science policy to cool stories, whatever, you name it.
Exactly. You can always join us Monday nights on our YouTube channel at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. If you like what you see, we would appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. And if you like the content, giving us a thumbs up. If you dislike the content for whatever reason, give us a thumbs down. Let us know how we're doing. You can also join us on our various social media outlets, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram.
Yeah, join us there. They're really good places to get together, talk about science.
They're starting to take shape, their own shapes here, Tom.
Yeah.
I like to, bring in some of the articles from the last week's show throughout the current week. Instagram is kind of becoming more of like a did you know type.
Yeah.
Sort of once a post a day. You can read all the news that we read on our Twitter because we're kind of liking and retweeting a whole bunch of things there. And if you felt so compelled to help us out financially, you could go on over to patreon.com/trèSci Weekly. Throw us a few bones there. That would be really, really awesome. And a big thank you to our Patreon supporters. Again,
for these past months.
Yeah, for the whole year, basically. So you guys know who you are. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Tom?
Are we ready?
I think we're ready to dive on in to what is and forever shall be the lightning round.
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
All right, coming in hot. First story, number 1, we're talking about Google Artificial Intelligence finding exoplanets.
Yes, we are. So, Google...
You know about those guys?
I did know about those guys. We don't really talk too much about Google doing astronomy work, but this seemed to be a little bit of a meeting of the minds here.
Yeah, exactly. So we've talked about hunting for exoplanets multiple times. We've talked about multiple solar systems that have exoplanets.
Mm-hmm.
And so what really happened here was they had a solar system that we knew already had planets in it.
Okay.
And then they wanted the artificial intelligence to look at all the data points that they had that they couldn't manually go over sort of rerun all the data and see if we missed any exoplanets.
Gotcha.
So that's basically what they did there.
Okay. So how is this done? Is this in like a slew of pictures that they're looking through? What is the AI looking through as far as the data, Tom?
Yeah. So we have the clip, I think, that we can show from the website. And when we're talking about finding an exoplanet, it's about the planet moving in front of the star, and as the planet gets in between the star and the thing collecting the light source, you get a little dip in the amount of light that you get, and that's what we're looking for to find the planet.
Okay.
So as you can see on the animation, you get a whole bunch of little dots that dip down in the amount of intensity or brightness that you get from the star, and that's what we're looking for in terms of exoplanets. But you just get so many data points, so many of those sets, that it's hard to go through each and every one and figure out, is that an exoplanet or not.
A lot of stars out there.
There's a lot of stars out there.
So what's interesting then is that Google comes to NASA's aid here and says, well, we've got this machine learning algorithm.
Yeah, they call it machine learning, yeah.
Right. So they introduce maybe the concept of what this dip in brightness might look like, and they kind of allow the AI to train itself.
Yeah, learn to train itself to recognize that pattern.
Right. And so and
then it can just go through tons and tons of data points.
Exactly. We have some of the numbers, actually. The machine learning algorithm looked at 670 stars that were already known to host 2 or more exoplanets.
It's a good place to start to see, are there more that we missed?
And I'm sure they probably actually had to use stars with a set of exoplanets for the machine learning
to start somewhere
process of it, right? Like,
but now that it's learned it, it can probably move on to newer systems.
Right. So let's scroll down a little bit to the second animation here, Kyle, if you don't mind, because this is kind of a neat little visual that Google provides for sifting through the sheer amount of data.
Why did we need to use the Google AI?
Right. So you guys can see in this animation a whole mess of these different dot formations and this little dip in intensity.
And they're all different, yeah.
Yeah, the AI kind of scans over all of them. And two examples come to the forefront here, Tom. Are these...
Yeah, those are the 2 ones that they found to be a planet.
Okay.
So they found 2, Kepler 90I and Kepler 80G.
Awesome.
And the most notable part about finding these 2 exoplanets is that with the extra confirmed exoplanet in the solar system, it actually became the only other solar system that we know of that has 8 planets like our own.
That was for the Kepler 90 system.
Yeah.
Kepler 90I becoming the 8th.
The 8th planet of that solar system.
Right.
For the first time. That's actually the first time we've seen that.
Yeah. So NASA gets a nice announcement out of this as well. Like, hey, we found another solar system that has just as many planets as ours.
Our own.
All the Pluto sympathizers out there are saying, not yet.
Not quite
Not yet. Mike Brown, right? He's like, you guys are one off, at least. Now, knowing him, he wants to make all the dwarf planets, so still got a long ways to go. No, but this is really awesome that we're seeing sort of application of this machine learning algorithm
to help crunch big data.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of a sweet and sour taste for all the astronomy grad students that are out there that are looking for jobs. But you know what?
That's all right.
Yeah. I mean, in this particular application, Tom, like you said, Kepler 90 already had 7 exoplanets discovered. What are the chances that you feel compelled as a researcher
to keep looking at that data?
Right.
Yeah. Could there be one more planet?
Yeah. To dig it out is, that's a hard process to dig that out.
This seems to be a way to sort of, cross your I's, dot your T's, make sure there's no loose ends, and really get through all the data points.
Right.
In a way that a person can't do on their own.
Yeah. Very cool stuff. How's chat doing?
Kayla says it looks really festive in here. It does.
It does. We
thank you.
Couldn't agree more. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. Shall we move on to the next story?
Sounds good. More space, right?
More space. Quick little follow-up story, Tom, on Oumuamua.
Oumuamua. If you remember, that's the rock. Did it come from another solar system? That's what we were asking, and
yes,
it did.
And it did. That is confirmed. The interstellar asteroid that flew past the sun and
came in, looped around, and now it's on its way out.
Yeah, last week we said that there was a search for extraterrestrial intelligent life SETI program called Breakthrough Listen, that they were going to point the Green Bank radio telescope at this object and see if they could listen to any potential artificial radio wave sources coming from it,
as well as just any other things we could gather from it.
Right. And just an update on that. So far, from the preliminary set of data, there have been no confirmed sources of artificially produced radio waves. So
no aliens.
No aliens watching TV, at least.
Not quite.
Yeah.
I actually remember seeing a headline that I didn't know whether if it was real or a joke or what it was, but it was something to the effect of the outside of Oumuamua is like a case or something, holding something that could be inside. I think it was like complete baloney, obviously, but...
I mean, I guess it could be, but...
You know, just like speculating what it is, what it isn't, but...
It's probably just a rock.
Yeah, I think your safest bet is, it's a rock from another solar system, got knocked in here.
Yeah.
But you got to check it, right?
Yeah, you got to check it because you never know what you're going to find if you don't look. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
I remember seeing that poster in high school.
Yeah.
A lot. I took every shot, man.
Cool. So, yeah, not too much to say about that. I guess we should mention that Breakthrough Listen will continue to do more observations of this. I think they cited 3 more in the Scientific American article that we are sourcing this information from. So, who knows?
Yeah.
The truth could still be out there. Yeah.
Cool. Moving on to our next story, number 3. This is coming to us from NASA using something called Schlieren. Is that how we're saying it?
Schlieren. Yeah.
Schlieren imaging for sonic boom reduction. So we looked up Schlieren, I think is a German word for streak, it said. And when you use Schlieren imaging, what you're actually looking at is the effect of the shockwave or what's going on in the air, because you can see the different wavelengths of light using this type of imagery.
Yeah, so...
Is there any way you can make that more clear for the viewer?
Yeah, so in the image that you're seeing, this Discover magazine image, you are seeing a cinematic technique where they basically are measuring the amount that light bends through different thicknesses of air.
Yeah. So
it's known that when jets go from a subsonic to a supersonic, right? Once they break through the speed of sound and they achieve Mach 1 is, I guess, the terminology they would use, that the jet produces what's known as a sonic boom. It's a loud crackling noise that's literally caused by the air becoming so pressurized from the motion of the jet. So NASA is using this imaging technique, this Schlieren imaging.
Yeah, they could basically see the way the air is moving, and they can see the differences between air densities that are extremely similar to each other.
Right.
So they can see right where that sonic boom and how it's happening.
Yeah. So you see kind of the streaks here in this this image that they show from the Discover magazine article. This insight helps the NASA researchers
just see how the sound shockwave happens.
Right.
They can literally see it happen.
Right. What is the physics behind this exactly? How is this forming, and what can we do to maybe design a jet that doesn't have this happen? Right.
And so we were reading a little bit about just normal planes and how they fly, and if you're going to hit supersonic speed and you're going to make that smacking shockwave, there's regulations in place that you can't do it over land in many cases. So it limits where your airplane can fly and where you can go to when you're hitting this supersonic speed.
Right.
So they're saying if we re-engineer our aircrafts differently, they might not even make this shockwave, and you don't have to worry about it then.
Yeah, so that could improve travel
times
and
make things easier.
Yeah, kind of, make the logistics of flying a little bit less clustered over the oceans and whatnot.
Yeah, you can just go over the line then.
Yeah. So according to this, this article by Discover, they say that NASA hopes to roll out what they call low boom flight demonstration aircrafts as early as 2022. So pretty neat.
It's not that far away.
Yeah, pretty neat little thing. What was interesting, Tom, is when we were researching the Schlieren imaging technique, and it's actually somewhat easy to pull off with a nice DSLR camera. So maybe something that we'll experiment with going into the new year, see if we can make it work.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Yeah, so in this example, they're looking at the air densities around the plane, but you could look at it different air densities on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
like we saw lighting a match.
Yeah,
all kinds of different things where you obviously can't see anything. The difference between hot air density and cold air density is so similar.
Yeah.
But using this technique, you're actually able to distinguish between the two.
Yeah. Or helium coming out of a balloon. Helium being a less dense air fluid. That's not air, but gaseous fluid than the air surrounding it. So you can actually see it where your eye wouldn't be able to detect it otherwise. So that's pretty cool. So we might.
Yeah, we'll have to
dabble around with some of that. That might be kind of cool. Moving on.
Too many toys. The next one.
Too many toys. Tom, is it possible to have too many toys?
Well, it turns out it might. It might be bad to have too many toys.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. I need my toys. No, this is a study that was reported on by ScienceNews.org. Basically, in the study, they brought in 36 children aged 18 months to 30 years old.
Got some little kids.
Yeah. And they wanted to see how the children interact with the toys in their environment, how much time they spend with each toy in their environment, depending on how many toys are in the room. And so on an initial visit, they had a room with 4 toys, and then on a follow-up visit, they had a room with 16 toys.
And they wanted to compare how they played with just the 4 toys and then how they played with the 16 toys.
Right.
And so do they spend more time with one, or sort of what are they doing, right?
So according to the article, quote, when in the playroom with 16 toys, children played with more toys and spent less time with each one over a 15-minute session, the researchers found. When the same kids were in a room with 4 toys, they stuck with each toy longer, exploring other toys less over the 15 minutes, end quote.
So, I mean, it kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah. Important to note, too, Tom, is that they didn't use any electronic toys within this study. So this, they're kind of more like,
just
I imagine,
basic standard toys,
blocks, toy cars, stuffed animals, maybe. And yeah, I mean, I guess the logical conclusion is not that, profound.
Yeah.
You would expect that when there are less toys available, that you kind of make do with what you have, and you use your imagination more to make these few toys.
Yeah, make them work.
Right? Whereas if you have 16 toys and you walk into a room with that many, it might be a bit overwhelming. You want to see everything, right? You know that time is limited, so you want to see everything before you leave. So you just kind of mess with stuff,
Yeah, I think one of the major points of this one is that it's sort of the depth that they're playing is what they're really trying to get into. That once you play with something for an extended period of time, like you said, you might start imagining things in your head. Like, I mean, I get that these kids were extremely young aged, but just extrapolating this more, as you're playing with one toy more and more, you realize the full extent of that toy, for example. Mm-hmm. Like, you might figure out more things to do with it than you did in the first place.
Sure.
And you might make up scenarios in your head, like make-believe things. And all of these things require more thinking power. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to figure out more ways to use the toy, more ways how it works, trying to bring it out of itself and into your world, these are all types of things that I actually haven't really thought about with types of toys that kids played with, but it sort of makes sense when you stick a kid in a room and there's 50 toys everywhere. They kind of just make noise with some things, roll things around.
Yeah.
And they don't really know themselves to sit down and see the most they can get out of something because they're a child.
Right.
They're so young.
Yeah.
So it's just something to keep in mind, because most people store all their toys in one spot. The toy room.
Yeah.
Let's throw all their junk in this room and we'll go in there and see what they want.
Yeah.
Instead of just having a few options for them.
Yeah.
Something to think about, because, I bet you a lot of kids are getting presents in a few days.
Yeah, a lot. That's exactly right. Something to think about for the holidays is, the kids that you're buying gifts for, do they need any more toys? I mean, it's always, right, that's the double-edged sword. It's always nice, I'm sure, as a gift giver or a parent to
just make a kid happy with a nice new toy.
Yep. But, the long-term effects of this is that, well, maybe they never get a chance to really, form an attachment to the toy that they're interacting with, and they don't ever get to really learn all of its functions and all of its uses. And the researchers actually go on to suggest that it could be beneficial for children to have less toys, because they say that formulating attention span is kind of like a skill. So the more you practice it, the better you become at, really focusing on one thing for a long span of time.
Yeah, and what was kind of funny is that we were mentioning to each other something like a kid playing on an iPad, like a young child, and it's amazing how long they can just chill there with their little tablet and do things. Whereas if you took that away, they'd probably be tearing up everything and throwing stuff around.
Yeah.
But it is pretty amazing how much, just enjoyment and engagement a child can get out of something like an iPad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's tough to say exactly what to do with them and how long they should play with what toys, but it's something to think about.
Yeah, something to consider, I think you're right. I think if iPads would have been part of this study, they would have
all been like, forget that truck, I'm going to go hang out with the iPad.
Doesn't matter how many toys are in the room, they're going to be engaging with the iPad for the most part.
That Franklin is on there somewhere. You know what I mean? Like their favorite show.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they know how to find it usually. It's crazy.
So, John, can you remember favorite childhood toy?
Favorite childhood toy. My parents tell me that I used to have this ritual at night with my Hot Wheels, my little toy cars. I wouldn't go to bed. Yeah. No, I wouldn't go to bed until I very systematically took each car and drove it across the back of the couch and let it fall off the side. And I would have to do that with all 20, 25 Hot Wheels cars that I had before I would go to bed. So that was my thing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I remember myself having, I think it was called Stretch Armstrong. If you remember, it was like a doll that you could pull and just stretch the crap out of.
Yeah.
I loved that thing.
Yeah. What were the arms made out of?
I don't know, to be honest. It was a pretty cool toy. You could stretch them real far.
Yeah.
We'll have to do some research.
We will. We'll have to figure out. Hopefully it's not PCBs.
Yeah, hopefully it's not some bad things.
We'll get to that in a sec.
And then real quick, we're going to look at the chat in a second, but I just remembered one point I wanted to bring up is that at the end of the day, it's amazing what little kids can do with things that aren't even toys, like a box and things like that. Mm-hmm. And they show you, hey, I don't need all these toys, and that I'm capable of creating my own world in my own head. Yeah. So don't forget that.
Yeah.
They don't always need a toy in their hands.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're looking at the chat. We got Karen Raleigh said they love the boxes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes the box is better than the toy.
Yeah, they don't need the $80 animatronic Elmo. Sometimes they just need the box.
You got Nash Money saying, looks so festive. Thank you.
Thank you, Nash Money. Appreciate you.
Oh, yeah. Congrats on the engagement.
That's true.
I forgot to mention that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Much love to Ryan and his fiancée.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. Congratulations.
Love those guys.
Mm-hmm. Nancy Kalita says, sets up for a lifetime of wanting more, consumerism to a detrimental environmental level, already a throwaway society. I tend to agree with you. I think that we have way, way too high of standards that we're setting as far as what the holidays mean for receiving, free gifts. I think that's it. It ends up becoming meaningless,
At the end of the day, yeah.
Yeah. So, there you go.
We don't even have kids yet, and look at us talking about toys for so long.
I know, yeah. We're like the biggest hypocrites here. But that's okay. Moving on.
Sweet. The next story we got for you, coming hot off the presses.
Yeah.
Governor Cuomo calling out the EPA.
Oh, boy.
We've been calling out the EPA recently for some shenanigans. So, basically what we're talking about, the headline right there says the EPA says the dredging of the Hudson River PCB contamination is complete, and therefore New York will sue the federal government. Basically because it's not complete.
Right. So, I guess let's break this down just piece by piece. So, when we're talking about dredging of the Hudson River for PCB contamination, what are we exactly talking about here, Tom?
So, PCBs stand for polychlorinated biphenyl.
Okay.
And they happen to be an organic chlorine compound, and we used to use them in all different kinds of applications.
Recently or?
More in the past.
Okay. So, yeah. So,
but they were still used up to pretty recently.
Okay.
And what ended up being a problem was that it is a carcinogen, a cancer-causing substance, and there ended up being a lot of it in a lot of public areas, such as the Hudson River.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways to counteract all that contamination, the EPA set up doing something called dredging, where it's basically like trying to sift through all the stuff to remove as much contaminated material as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of like if you're trying to drain like pasta or something, but the stuff in it's too small, so a lot of it goes through too. So you're sifting out a lot of what you want, but you're not able to get it all with just dredging it one time.
Yeah.
So you have to dredge and dredge and dredge.
Right.
And eventually you're hoping you're lowering the concentration.
Gotcha.
But it's tough, and dredging costs money.
Yeah. And it's not a one and done.
You just go through and we'll just clean it up. So yeah, it's an ongoing process.
Okay. So here, Governor Cuomo is saying that the EPA is expected to...
Yeah, they're ready to hang up the towel on this
say
one.
that, okay, so we're good to go.
Yeah.
We've got the contamination out of the Hudson River. We're gonna wipe our hands clean. Yeah. And yet he's saying no.
Close,
we're not done with this. So why is the EPA backing out of this, you think, Tom?
Yeah. So the report goes on to say that the EPA itself even made note that it is not okay and the levels are too high.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same report, they were talking about the effectiveness of dredging, and they're sort of saying that with the amount of dredging that we've done and how much more dredging we could do to improve it, it's not really worth the money to keep dredging out the Hudson River.
Gotcha.
And instead of saying, okay, let's try this new approach, or let's open up funding to see if we can get rid of the contaminants another way, they're sort of saying we did the dredging that we said we would. It's not clean of contaminants yet, but we can't really keep dumping money into dredging, and we don't really have anything else, so we're gonna sort of just close it up. That's basically what they're saying, which is kind of a cop-out, right?
But that's, I guess, the thing is, like, the EPA has done the studies on the level of toxicity.
They're the ones saying that it's bad.
So, like, we know that it's still not up to par here. It's still not at a good level. So, is this the EPA just trying to pull federal funding away from this project and leave it for the state to deal with? Like, because we're not just going to wrap a bow on this one and call it a day, right? This is still a problem. It just becomes a matter of finger pointing
to deal with it,
right?
So that's sort of what's going on.
Okay.
The EPA is trying to say we did a lot of dredging and we've done what we could.
So what do you think?
Pick it up,
So what do you think happens now, right? The EPA seems poised to pull out of this, by which point Governor Cuomo in the state of New York sues the EPA, and then this becomes a litigation process for
years.
Who knows when, and then all the while this project doesn't get continued to work on, and we just sit with a contaminated river. Like,
yeah, I mean that seems like the way we're going towards. A little bureaucratic limbo for a while.
Yeah,
but
that's horrible.
Yeah, and like the EPA said, they're the ones who are saying the levels are not okay.
So,
but they can't really commit any more resources to the dredging operation. They have no other contingent plan.
Yeah.
And they're saying we've done as much as we could, and now they're trying to put it on to the state level, but they didn't meet their requirements for making it below the EPA standards saying it should be. So it's a tough one, involving a lot of money, I would imagine.
So it seems like the solution, the reasonable solution, Tom, as you said, would be to have the EPA continue the dredging process, but year by year try to phase out the money spent on the dredging as is and invest it into research that will either make the dredging process more efficient or replace it with a new process of filtering out the PCBs in a more cost-effective way, right? Yeah. That's probably the way we have to do this, but because of politics, it seems like this is just going to
become... are you paying for it or am I paying for it?
Yeah, this is going to go into the ether, unfortunately.
Yeah, and just a quick mention, I was reading a few of the articles on Wikipedia about the PCBs, and there's some really wild stories about pollutants and what was done in the past regarding that stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy to read and look at.
Yikes. Oh boy.
All right, moving on.
Well, moving on from there. Number 6, Tom. There was quite a bit of buzz around a list of words that the Washington Post dug up that were supposedly banned from being used at the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control.
Yep, that was the original post that everybody was resharing. The original was the Washington Post, and that's how they put it, that these are banned words at the CDC in terms of the budget.
Right. So
you want to just read off the words real quick?
Yeah, we'll give you the list of words. The words were vulnerable, entitlement, diversity, transgender, fetus, evidence-based, and science-based. So those are the words that are supposedly not able to be said in
the budget proposal.
Right, in an official document for the budget.
So we did a little bit of research to try and figure out what's actually going on here.
So we went over to Dr. Brenda Fitzgerald, the director of the CDC. We went to her Twitter.
She just happens to have a nice little Twitter page.
Yeah, and she commented on this whole thing. Quote, "I want to assure you there are no banned words at CDC. We will continue to talk about all our important public health programs." End quote. And then a few more tweets to follow up on that. So pretty much completely at odds with what the Washington Post is saying. So Tom, what is your take on this? Who is telling the truth and who is lying here?
Yeah, so it seems to be a weird way of wording, right? So what we're talking about is the CDC, when they give a budget proposal, they're asking for funds for various parts of the organization to do research with and just to function. Mm-hmm. So when they're writing up a proposal, the CDC is trying to think about who they're writing the proposal for. Mm-hmm. So basically what's going on is that the CDC says that these are some hot topic words, and a lot of them are associated with Obama-era grants and research that was done. Mm-hmm. So these words in particular, they're trying to say that when you put these in your budget, remember that these are sort of hot topic political ideas, and your research grant proposals might be thrown out if you use too many of these words that the party is sort of against a little bit. Not that really they're against, but it doesn't really go in line with some of the party's
You're
feelings.
Appealing to a new administration that is seemingly completely
regulations and flip-flopping.
Right, just completely at odds with the previous administration's kind of efforts, right? So if you are looking for funding, maybe it's best not to explicitly write these words.
To really press it in, if you can.
Right. because a Trump administration person that's going to read through your proposal is going to probably not understand a large majority of the research that you're doing just in general anyway. Not that I'm knocking Republicans, but like just in general, politicians are not scientists. So, there's a discrepancy there. And so if they just see, a lot of these words.
If the title of your paper has diversity of whatever.
Yeah.
Things like that.
They might deem it, not important and throw your research proposal in the garbage.
Which is horrible in its own right.
That is a sad reality of the situation. But in this case, I think that it's fair to say that the Washington Post kind of probably overstated what is happening here. I think we can take Dr. Brenda Fitzgerald's word here that these aren't words that are banned from being used, but probably you should use them at your
own discretion and perhaps sparingly. And remember, this is only for the budget proposal.
Right.
This isn't saying that these are not words or phrases that can be used at the organization.
Right.
They're basically saying these are a lot of the words that have a lot of weight behind them and a lot of political discussion and arguments about. And like we mentioned, the last administration, a lot of emphasis was put on diversity and talking about animals that were in vulnerable situations and things like that, where they're sort of looking for a little bit of change of research. So they're sort of trying to guide the people coming up with their budgets to take this sort of into account.
Right.
And it stinks that they have to, because, science-based, evidence-based, fetus, these are all real-life issues that we're all dealing with. So, it sucks that they have to deal with...
Walk on eggshells like this.
Just to get their research across, but
it's by no means a 1984 banning of
we can't do this,
terms.
We can't do that, but
that's not what's happening. So,
somewhere in the middle of both of them.
Yeah. So I think in this general case, Tom, we can have, somewhat of some faith in the government right now, at least in terms of the CDC. Moving on to the next story, however, if you don't want to place any faith in the government, here is a really good reason why you might feel that way. This next story comes by way of Ajit Pais' Twitter feed. Ajit Pai is the director of the FCC currently, and I don't know if you read about this, Tom, but the FCC just currently voted 3-2 to abolish net neutrality on December 14th. Mm-hmm. This was a video that Mr. Pai put up that
the day
before, that basically was kind of a quote-unquote list of things you can still do without net neutrality on the internet. And we won't watch the video together because there are samples from different music sources that I don't want us to get a copyright strike on.
Yeah, the FCC stealing people's content.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But what did you think of this video? You watched it, right? Yeah, we watched it. And what was your take on it? If you don't mind, maybe describing some of it to the audience.
So he basically goes on by saying that you basically can do all the baloney nonsense that you do now, and you'll still be able to do if we get rid of net neutrality.
Okay.
Like, take a picture of your dog, your food, be a Star Wars fan, but he does it in a way that makes you like, it makes everything seem petty and just dumb.
Yeah.
And just only use the internet for is a few dumb things anyway, so what do you care?
Yeah.
Is basically what the video sounds like. And it's like, it's more than that, man. We're not just worried about our dog pictures, like...
To me, it's completely tone deaf.
Oh, yeah.
Like, completely. Just completely tone deaf.
He's missing the point completely.
Yeah, we're not worried about the fact that, like, it's still going to be possible to put pictures of Moshe up on the internet. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about you giving, more power to companies like Cablevision, who, no offense, kind of don't do the right thing all the time. And
already, yeah.
And we're looking at it from the perspective of, like, well, we run an internet-based operation here with trèSci, and if you're going to throttle access to certain websites or charge a premium for access to certain websites, which is something that abolishing net neutrality will ultimately open
the door to,
open the door to for these cable companies, that's a real problem. And to put out a stupid video like
just
this,
say, oh, you could still do whatever you want on the internet.
like, you've got to be kidding me with that.
And the funniest part is that he is just the head of the FCC as well.
Yeah.
He's not just some random intern who made a crazy video.
Yeah. Like, you're the guy that should be kind of talking about this more seriously.
Yeah.
So,
But I guess, that's one way to sort of counteract the issue, try to make it seem not as serious, play it down a little bit, I guess.
I mean,
I don't know,
There's no good argument for getting rid of net neutrality.
I haven't heard one.
Yeah. So, I mean, what else do you do in this case if you're these guys?
I guess make a silly video.
Yeah. Pretty sad. There have been some really funny responses to this video.
If you haven't seen it, take a chance to watch the video. I also retweeted on our Twitter a pretty funny response talking about gaming in the future.
Yeah.
Depending on what goes on at the FCC.
There's a particular scene in the video where Ajit Pais is swinging around a lightsaber, and Mark Hamill, who plays Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars movies, also took to Twitter and commented back on this, and he kind of called him out by being like, yo, bro, you're not a Jedi. Like, this is not something that we would be proud of.
Yes, as Jedi.
I like that I like that Mark Hamill embraces the fact that he's
that character.
He's that character. Like, a lot of actors will try to distance themselves. He's just like, nah, bro, I'm a Jedi.
That's awesome.
Yeah. How's our chat doing?
Doing good. We got Carrie in the chat said, unfortunately, scientists are viewed poorly, especially by this administration, because a lot of times they are seen as getting in the way of profits. We heard Scott Pruitt multiple times talk about the idea of the economy and not wanting to, throttle any part of our economy, and talking about obstruction that scientists can cause. And it stinks when people are trying to do genuine research and try and help society when they often get viewed for just being in the way.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And then we got Eric in the chat, first time watcher, long time brother. I like to see that.
That's what's up.
Hey, Eric.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Moving on,
Tom. Last bit of the lightning round here. We wanted to do a little bit of research on our own from the various weather outlets and see if we could get an inkling of whether or not we're going to have a white Christmas this year.
Do you remember as a kid, like, it being snowy on Christmas? I remember like 2 times it was, and for whatever reason, I remember those being better Christmases.
Really?
Because it was snowy. You could throw snowballs and stuff.
I
remember specifically one year that it was snowing on Christmas.
Nice. I don't distinctly remember any of them being white Christmases, but I do distinctly remember some white New Years. And I remember running outside as a little
with
kid.
Pots and pans,
right. As the clock strikes midnight and just being in the snow and being like, why am I out here? I
actually have a really funny New Year story you reminded me. Little kid running around real excited. I had like a little sparkler in my hand for the New Year. And it was real dark, and I just ran right into a light pole that we had.
Oh, man.
And I was out.
Yikes.
So it might have been from the snow. I'm calling it a slip.
Slip is a slide. Slide is now. Kyle, we're on the same wavelength. I like that, dude. Nice.
All right. So what are we looking at? Can we have a white Christmas?
So let's see what people are digging up. Ryan Mao over at weather.us has been periodically updating the chances, and he's been looking at some of the weather modeling simulations that they can provide.
It's tough when you're going beyond 7 days.
We're still a ways out.
Everybody in the weather community knows that you can't make a realistic prediction more than 7 days out.
Right.
But we can still know, we have a good idea.
Yeah. So he says, quote, white Christmas update, 8 days. So this was yesterday. Less festive for snow on ground in the big cities from DC to New York City and Boston. Too warm along coast. Map is % chance of snow on ground of at least 1 inch. And so, looking over at us in the Northeast, Long Island doesn't really seem to have a very good chance of a white Christmas, but upstate New York looks like it could still. And then if we jump over to a tweet from the Weather Channel, they say, hashtag Christmas Arctic hashtag cold outbreak is ahead, brought to you by the Greek letter omega. And they seem to think that there's going to be quite a bit of cold Arctic air that gets pushed down into the Rockies and the Midwest
from the Great Plains. From the jet stream swooping down low, looking like that omega symbol.
Yeah. And this is kind of similar to what we talked about last week, Tom, when we were mentioning the weird snowy weather in Texas.
Yeah, down south.
Yeah. So this would be another similar thing here with as far as the atmosphere.
So with the jet stream, you can get a lot of different movement depending on a few different variables, and when those get exaggerated together, they all work together to sort of dip the jet stream down, allowing the Arctic air to go lower and lower and lower.
Okay.
So it's really to the extent that those conditions allow the jet stream to dip down, because that's going to bring that colder air to us.
Gotcha.
And yeah, who knows? There's they mentioned that there's a slight possibility of the jet stream dropping low enough to give us snow in winter. So there's still a small % chance we do have it.
And I mean, we're good. We got snow.
We got snow already.
So we're good to go. Awesome.
Cool.
So that is the lightning round for you guys. Tom, we have a Tom's Corner this week.
Yes, we do. Coming back at you.
Coming back at
you. The corner might not always be there, but it'll come back.
Right on. So what are we talking about this week?
So I saw a really cool article that got shared on Facebook, and it was about cracking knuckles, actually. So I did a little bit of research. I wanted to see what this was all about.
Okay.
To see, is it okay if you crack your knuckles, especially on your hands, and what happens?
Are you a knuckle cracker?
I usually don't crack my hands a lot, but I do like my back, like my neck, things like that. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I'll do my hands. Yeah. It's just like a habit a lot of people have.
Yeah, I certainly have it. I definitely crack my knuckles in more than one way, actually, throughout the day.
Do one of these and then a side one.
Yeah. I do the neck. I do the back. I can even do my toes. So, So I hope that will be okay.
Yeah. So before we get into the exact results or the study that we're talking about, what is a knuckle crack in the first place?
That's a great question.
What makes it? So, in between your joints, there's something called synovial fluid.
Okay.
And when you crack it, there's little air pockets, and as you crack your joint, you change the amount of space that's there for that liquid that has dissolved gas in it.
Okay.
So when you change the amount of space that's there, you change the pressure that's on it, and as the gas can either expand quickly or come back together from that change in space, you'll actually create a popping sound.
Interesting.
And that's a different popping sound from some people who can pop out their shoulder over and over again.
Right.
You can get a clicking sound a lot of times from the way the tendon moves past the joint. So from that fluid in your finger from cracking, you have to wait 20 minutes for the solution to sort of even back out for you to naturally crack that joint again using the fluid in your synovial fluid. Using the synovial fluid in your joint.
Okay. Interesting. Do we have the graphic to share with the
viewers?
The viewers here? Kyle, if you don't mind bringing that up, that would be awesome. So
yeah. There's a really cool little piece that I wanted to add on here.
Yeah.
So I found out there was a guy, certifiable gangster, this one guy, he decided, I'm just going to crack all my knuckles on one hand, but not the other, and see what happens. And guess how long he did that for?
A week.
60 years.
What?
So let's say we got a lot of good data. And I was, honestly, when I thought about it, I'm looking at it, I'm like, his one hand is going to be shot. Yeah. I was like, it's going to be messed up. Turns out there was really no discernible difference between the two, and he didn't have any more developed arthritis in one hand than the other. He had slight arthritis in both because he was old after 60 years of knuckle cracking.
That's incredible, though.
Honestly, yeah, really cool. I'm glad that his one hand wasn't all messed up because it feels good to crack your knuckles every once in a while.
Yeah.
Without having to be worried about it.
So
his name was Donald Unger.
Yeah.
And he was a doctor.
Yeah, adding on to that, he won the Ig Nobel Prize for medicine in 2009. We did some coverage of the Ig Nobel Prize awards. Those are kind of like the science research
that still get recognized.
Yeah. So
yeah, they gave him the honorable, like, funny Nobel Prize basically for his work on knuckle cracking.
Yeah, that's really astonishing. I would expect that something would have been affected by that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally thought his joints would be all swelled up.
Yeah.
I really didn't think that it could. I don't think any good can happen from doing it every day. I just don't think that it's, like, really detrimental.
Right.
But I don't think you really get much benefit. But that's a lot of what, like, chiropractor and things build on. Like, when they do direct manipulation for cracking to try and relieve some of the stress that's in your body.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a good point to remember is that you might be opening up slightly more space, and it might help a little bit, maybe circulation and stuff.
Yeah.
But within 20 minutes, all that fluid's back in the same spot as it was before.
Yeah.
So you're not really changing the game, but it might
Because
help
it's
a little
not
bit. Yeah.
going anywhere.
It's just sort of moving around within itself.
Right. It doesn't actually
escape away.
Right.
Leave more room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Our evolution did it
the right way.
Primo.
Imagine
man.
crack your knuckles 6 times. That's it. Your shot.
Your fingers break off. Yeah, that would be awful. So that's cool. Image credit goes to howstuffworks.com for that nice little graphic. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is good news for me.
I just thought that one was super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to bring it up.
I tend to crack my knuckles more often when I'm anxious.
When you're
right?
stressed.
Yeah, when
Instead
I'm in
of
a high
biting your
stress.
nails, you're like, I'll just crack my
I
knuckles.
actually never bite my nails.
That's good.
Never. My nails are in such good shape that I don't even think my teeth could break.
They're
my
so
nails.
strong. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, guys.
Which I know.
Impressive.
Very impressive.
In the chat, Kayla says she's a major knuckle cracker. Nancy said she never did it one time. Not even once.
So we are on
Different-
two sides of the
different-
spectrum here with
different sides.
knuckle cracking. Very cool.
All right.
Tom,
Those are the last of our stories.
one more thing before we
head
hit
on
the
out.
road here, Jack. I did another Friday poll this past week, and as promised, I said that I would increase our sample size a little bit by reaching
Allowing
out.
comments and
Yeah, so, if you haven't seen the Friday poll yet, you can always check that out on our various social media
Facebook,
webpage.
Twitter, follow it, tweet, stream, do it.
Whichever one you want to respond to, go for it. If you want to respond multiple times, I'll count your vote multiple times.
We don't care.
Yeah, we don't care. The poll this week was SpaceX or Tesla.
They both happen to be Elon Musk's projects.
Yep, I wanted to see, what people,
are we feeling?
What are people feeling? And I always leave it just at that, right? Like,
It's one or the other.
yeah, I don't care what context.
If you like both,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, I don't
one.
care what context you're receiving this poll in. You just let me know your choice. So SpaceX beat out Tesla 12-9 this week, Tom,
Nice.
in the Friday poll. We have an image of the SpaceX logo to show you. This is actually a pretty cool image that was made by somebody on the SpaceX Reddit.
Okay.
Couldn't find the actual user, so can't give credit to
Okay.
the individual, but we found it. I found it there. Interestingly, Tesla was lauded by many of the people that responded to me as having a more immediately impactful application. Yeah, it's cool, right? Immediately impactful applications for their technologies.
As opposed to
SpaceX,
might be further
where
along. Yeah.
people commented like, yeah, this is probably more for future-proofing, but a lot of people commented that SpaceX had a more exciting approach to the way that they distribute news, at least.
Gotcha.
Fittingly, just yesterday, Tom, SpaceX was celebrating another successful launch of their Dragon capsule spacecraft to the International Space Station. The Dragon capsule is being reused for its second mission, this particular one, delivering approximately 2 tons worth of supplies to the crew.
2 tons, wow.
Yeah, it's heavy. I have SpaceX's Twitter, where they put that tweet up yesterday, if you don't mind bringing that up, Kyle. So bravo to those guys. Congratulations.
Good job, yeah. Another successful job.
Well, I meant for winning the poll.
Oh, okay. Good job, guys.
And then Elon Musk actually followed this tweet up on his own Instagram, showing a quick montage video of how the International Space Station crew uses the robotic arm that they have on board there to catch and reel in the Dragon capsule. The
Dragon payload.
Yeah, and secure it to the ISS. So we'll have Kyle show that off as well. Yeah, this was fun because it was nice to reach out to a bunch of people that I haven't really reached out to in order to get their opinions on. This is by no means a large enough sample size to draw any conclusion from it. But interesting nonetheless. So hope you guys enjoy the Friday poll because I enjoyed doing it.
We'll keep them coming.
Yeah, we'll keep them coming with different topics for you guys.
Yeah, so don't forget to follow all of our social media, Twitter, Facebook. Tag us and stuff. Yeah. Take the polls. Be a part of the trèSci community.
Yeah, it's fun. We appreciate any and all input you guys give us throughout the week, not just tonight, you know?
Yeah, whenever you see something, think of us.
Tom?
That's it, right, my man?
It's been a fun little ride here for 2017.
Oh, yeah, we got the holidays coming up.
This is it, yeah. As I mentioned at the top of the show, next week, no show. A week after that, no show. We'll, take a couple weeks off to enjoy some time with our friends and family for the holidays. We want to wish you guys a very happy holiday as well. We hope that it's
safe and happy.
Yeah, healthy. Enjoy some good food. Enjoy some time spent with the family. And enjoy some nice new video games if you get them, because that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, we'll still be on our social media stuff, though.
Yep.
So if you're looking for science news, you can check us out.
Yeah. Look forward to the next year. We'll have some exciting stuff to talk about when we come back from vacation.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys all then.
Sounds good. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Until then, catch you next time.